6,223. That is how many merchant seafarers were abandoned by their ship owners in a single year. 2025, according to the International Transport Workers Federation, spread across 410 ships. Sounds like a statistic until you do the math. 410 ships in 365 days is one ship abandoned somewhere in the world roughly every 21 hours, all year, and in nearly every case there were people still living aboard when it happened. Not wrecks, not rusted hulks on a beach with the paint gone. Working vessels with bunks made up and a kettle in the galley and a second engineer down below who has not been paid since spring. Here is the trap, and it is a trap, not a choice anybody makes. Under maritime law, your unpaid wages are a claim against the ship itself. Step off and that claim becomes very hard to enforce. Stay aboard, and you keep your leverage, and you also keep the rats, the dead generator, and the brown water coming out of the tap. So the men stay, not because they are stubborn, because leaving costs them the only money their families are ever going to see. So tonight, 20 ships ranked from bad to worst. Not ghost ships, not shipwrecks, not mysteries of the sea. Real hulls with names and hull numbers and crews still on them. Everyone backed by United Nations abandonment records, federal court orders, Coast Guard files, salvage reports, or investigations by the Associated Press and Reuters. Number 2 is a ship whose crew got off alive and whose abandonment still killed roughly 190 people 6 years later. Number 1 is a man who swam to shore every few days for drinking water because a court had made him the legal guardian of the ship he was trying to survive. Let's get into it. Number 20, Newport Docks, South Wales, the Sunflower E. We start in the last place anybody expects, and that is exactly the point. This is Britain, maritime labor convention country, employment tribunals, a Coast Guard you can actually call. On March 10th, 2015, this Italian-owned cargo ship tied up at Newport, and legal claims worth £5 million landed on her. She did not move for more than 3 months, and neither did the 13 men aboard, 11 Indonesians, 1 Filipino, and 1 Romanian, who spent that spring without running water and without a working fridge. They got out only when liquidators agreed to pursue an £82,000 wage claim for them. The mechanism here is the WRIT. A commercial dispute freezes the hull, and the men are inside the hull. The cost at Newport is the assumption that a rich country is a safe one. Boring advice, and it stays boring all video. Photograph your contract, both sides, before you sail. Cross the Atlantic to a port where the outcome was better and the arithmetic was worse. Number 19, the port of Palm Beach, Florida, and 2 ships, Monarch Princess and Monarch Countess. In 2022, a family-run Florida company, Teeter's Agency and Stevedoring, walked away from both, vessels built in the 1970s and running cheap goods to Haiti. Left aboard were 22 crew, mostly Ukrainian, unable to send anything home to what was now a war zone, and owed $130,000 between them. A federal judge ordered both ships sold. One fetched $5,000. What actually got the men home was $22,000 from local seafarers' charities. Their captain, Yevgen Slautin, told the Associated Press he thanked God it happened in America, because elsewhere, I could have been left there to simply die. The mechanism is the scrap price. The cost at Palm Beach is the arithmetic, which says a man's year is worth less than a hull nobody wants. Get the number of the port chaplaincy before you need it. Stay with the theme of docks that look fine from the quay. Number 18, Berth 13, Dubai, Maritime City, aboard the Topman. 9 months is the short version of this list, and the short version still looks like this. 8 Indian sailors on a Panama-flagged ship that entered Dubai waters in November 2017 and were paid exactly 1 month's wages total. As the fuel ran low, they made a decision anybody who has run a generator will recognize. They rationed it to nights only, for light and safety, and spent the daylight hours on deck under a tarpaulin roof They rigged themselves. A local maritime institute fed them twice. The mechanism is the berth. A ship alongside a modern terminal in a wealthy city does not look like an emergency, and nobody walks past anyway. The cost at berth 13 is daylight. Log every unpaid day in writing with dates starting with the first one. Now east to a bay everybody has heard of and a flag that is supposed to mean something. Number 17, Manila Bay, the Selenova. Everyone blames flags of convenience for this problem. This one flew Spain's, a liquefied petroleum gas tanker owned by Global Gas of Madrid, at anchor with 15 Cuban crew aboard for roughly 5 months in 2020. No fuel, no refrigeration, no safety lights, a faulty rudder. They rode out Typhoon Ambo like that before the Transport Workers Federation persuaded Philippine authorities to let the ship in so the men could be helped. The mechanism here is the respectable flag. A European register is a reputation, not a rescue service, and reputations do not deliver drinking water. The cost in Manila Bay is the flag you trusted, which turns out to be a filing cabinet 11,000 kilometers away. Check who actually pays you, not who the ship is registered to. Number 16. The Port of Portland, Victoria, Australia. The livestock carrier, Yangtze Fortune. Here is the entry where the system worked, and it still took 6 months. She arrived on the 28th of September, 2022, to load 5,200 head of cattle for China. An inspection found cracks in the hull, the voyage died, and her owner, Soar Harmony Shipping, stopped paying, stopped provisioning, and stopped answering the court. In December, Federal Court Justice Angus Stewart declared her all but abandoned, with 36 Filipino crew still aboard, and ordered a judicial sale. The town of Portland put on Christmas dinner for them. She sold in March 2023 for $9 million. The mechanism is the crack. One survey finding cancels the cargo. The canceled cargo cancels the money. The missing money cancels the crew. The cost at Portland is learning that kindness is not a remedy. If your ship gets detained, get your wage claim in front of that court the same day. Same owner, same month, opposite side of the ocean. Number 15, an anchorage off Singapore, the Yangtze Harmony. This entry proves the postcode matters more than the paperwork. Singapore is richer than Portland, better run than Portland, and for these 13 Filipino seafarers, it was worse. Their ship was arrested in October 2022 over an unpaid fuel bill. The owner cut them loose, and by April they were owed $429,972. In Portland, the crew could walk into town for Christmas dinner. In Singapore, they were denied shore leave and denied visitors, which the Federation's Ian Bray compared to a floating prison. The mechanism is the fence. The cost at Singapore is the gangway, a piece of steel that decides whether you are a worker or an inmate. Ask about shore leave at the discharge port before you sign anything. Quick pit stop, because from here, it stops being about money. If this list is worth anything to you, hit subscribe. It is free, and unlike your Manning agent, it does not take a cut of it. Number 14, 1,380 nautical miles southeast of Bermuda, the Alta. This is the shortest ordeal on the list, and it is here for what happened afterwards. In September 2018, she was disabled en route from Greece to Haiti. Her 10 crew spent 20 days adrift, running out of food, before the United States Coast Guard cutter Confidence took them off. Then the Tanzanian-flagged hull drifted, crewless, for about 17 months before Storm Dennis drove her onto the rocks near Ballycotton, County Cork, on 16 February 2020. A cutter was launched for those 10 men because they were in open water. Nobody was launched for the men in ports. The mechanism is the hull's value. The cost of the Alta is the proof that the ship was always the point. A distress call at sea gets answered, so make it before you are safely alongside, because alongside is where help stops coming. Down the west coast of Africa now, to a port most people could not find on a map. Number 13, off Walvis Bay, Namibia, the Halani 1, hull number 78-16379, under the flag of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. 8 Indian seafarers aboard between 1 and 2 years, unpaid. The case sits in the United Nations Abandonment Database, so this is documented, not rumor. In January 2019, the charity Human Rights at Sea published something charities normally do not publish, which is that men on board were expressing intent to end their lives. They published it because nothing else had moved. The mechanism is the silence. Nobody is coming, nobody is writing, and a man can hold out against almost anything except the absence of a reply. The cost at Walvis Bay is the part of a man that does not come home even when he does. If a crewmate stops eating or stops talking, that is your emergency, not the wages. Number 12, off Sharjah and then Dubai Maritime City, the Azraq Moya. This is not a ship that went wrong. This is a company that worked exactly as designed. Elite Way Marine Services of Dubai abandoned 8 vessels and roughly 40 seafarers. Captain Ayappan Swaminathan was stranded aboard this one from the expiry of his contract in October 2017, and the ship's cook, Rajib Ali, put in 38 months across 3 of the company's hulls. On this vessel alone, the crew were owed about $260,000. I want to be fair here, because the country's own Federal Transport Authority did eventually get these ships towed in, and the officials who did it were working against their own government's refusal to ratify the convention. The mechanism is the fleet. 1 ship is a failure, 8 is a business model. The cost of the Azraq Moya is your daughter's 4th birthday. Search the company name in the United Nations database before you sign. Same company, worse ship. Number 11, 25 nautical miles off Ajman, the Tamim Al-Dar. They escaped and they were sent back. Second engineer Vikas Mishra was aboard 38 months, chief engineer Arsu Lobo 31, wages pending since March 2016. The generator was dead, and the main engine had not been serviced in almost 2 years. When the rusting hull began listing badly enough that they thought she would go, they spent days making the only viable lifeboat seaworthy and rowed 25 miles for shore. The Emirati Coast Guard returned them to the ship because an unmanned hull in a busy lane at night was judged the larger hazard. Mishra's daughter was 9 months old when he left. She turned 4 while he was out there. The mechanism is the anchorage. 25 miles is not a distance, it is a policy. The cost off Ajman is the right to save your own life. Put every safety defect in the deck log, signed and dated. If you are still with me, tap the like button. The algorithm treats A like the way a port agent treats your crew change request. No reaction at all, and then somehow it is booked. Number 10. The port of Atabia at the southern mouth of the Suez Canal, the Kinan Mete, a Panama-flagged bulk carrier abandoned by her owner, Blodwin Marina. The United Nations database logs the abandonment from August 2019 with 25 crew from 6 countries. Most were repatriated by January 2021 with 4 months' pay, a better outcome than most of this list. One man was not. Captain Vabi Kara was appointed by an Egyptian court as the ship's legal guardian, so he could not follow his own crew down the gangway. When the emergency generator failed on February 11, 2021, he emailed the Union in the dark. "This may be the last message I write." 3 days later, he wrote again. No electricity, no water, no food, alone for 12 days, and the mice kept him awake. Hold on to Atabia, because this port comes back before the list is done, and when it does, it is worse. The mechanism is guardianship. A court needs a warm body legally responsible for a hull, and the cheapest one is already standing on it. The cost at Atabia is the word guardian. which in that courtroom means the ship's, not yours. Never accept a court appointment you have not read in your own language. Number 9. The Ula, abandoned by Aswan Trading and Contracting. 19 men prove something the industry would rather you did not know, which is that a flag state can simply walk away. The crew of 25 were left without wages, food, fuel, or water since 2019, with one man aboard for 31 months. On 7 January 2021, they began refusing all meals, and the reason was not that the food was bad. It was that they could not eat while their families went hungry and they could send nothing home. The hunger strike ran into February. 19 were repatriated in June 2021 after 2 solid years of union advocacy. Throughout, Palau, the flag state legally obliged to get them home, did nothing, and eventually resolved the matter the cheap way by cutting the ULA from its register. The mechanism is deregistration. When a flag state's obligations get expensive, its cheapest available fix is to stop being the flag state. The cost of the ULA is the discovery that your legal protection was a subscription and somebody canceled it. Photograph the registry certificate and note its expiry date. Number 8. Shahid Rajai Port at Bandar Abbas, Iran, the SL Star. The abandonment here did not begin when the money stopped. It began before he ever boarded. In 1919, a crane put a load in the wrong place and the ship rolled. 10 men made it to shore. Electrical officer Rakesh Padmamurthy, 23, did not, and his leg was severed below the knee. His crewmate Aftab Alam, 21, nursed him in hospital for 2 months, sleeping on the floor and eating what other patients left behind. The owner, a Dubai firm called Sea Link Shipping, never replied, and neither did Comoros, the flag state. No crew member was ever paid. Padmamurthy had borrowed $2,000 in recruitment fees for a job paying $250 a month and finished repaying it in October 2024. The mechanism is the recruitment fee. Debt bondage is the United Nations term, and it means a man cannot walk away from a bad ship because he has already bought his seat. The cost of the SL Star is a loan you are still servicing on the job that took your leg. A job that charges you to start is the warning, and usually the only one. Number 7. Westport, Washington, and 4 American tuna boats belonging to McAdams Fish. Now the tone changes, and it does not change back. These were the first United States flagged vessels listed as abandoned by the United Nations in 15 years. American owner, American port, American flag, and roughly 24 Filipino crew confined aboard because without visas, immigration law would not let them stand on the dock. Rainer Dagalea, 49, worked 17-hour days catching albacore in the North Pacific. By Christmas, pay records showed he and 5 crewmates had received less than half what they were owed, working out to around $8 a day. Homeland Security investigations boarded after the holidays. Here's the part that matters. Fishers are excluded from the Maritime Labor Convention. The 2-month wage trigger, the repatriation duty, the compulsory insurance, none of it covers these men. The mechanism is the exclusion. The cost at Westport is a definition, and you are on the wrong side of it. If you fish, get the protections written into the contract because nothing else will put them there. Number 6. Moored off the coast of Yemen, the Sister 12. This is not a company that failed. This is a company that runs on it. The crew were confined aboard for more than a year without a paycheck. Abdul Razak Abdul Khalik, a Syrian sailor on board, sent the Associated Press photographs of taps running brown water and a pantry holding a few rotting vegetables. He wrote, "There is no food, there is no water, there is no life." The operator is a firm called Friends Shipping, with offices in Turkey and Dubai, and 19 of the 22 ships listed on its own website have been named in United Nations abandonment cases. Union Inspector Helen Meldrum described the cycle: hire men who do not know the reputation, leave them in conditions bad enough that they will go home unpaid just to get off, then staff a fresh crew. The mechanism is the rebrand. Names change, hulls do not. The cost of the Sister 12 is the next crew who are signing right now. Search the hull number, not the company name, because the number is the only thing they cannot repaint. Number 5. A public beach at Al Quwain in the United Arab Emirates, the tanker Eba. Half of you said this one out loud 20 minutes ago. 5 men, 43 months aboard, 32 of those unpaid after their owner, Alco Shipping, once one of the country's largest, ran out of money. Then on January 22nd, 2021, the 5,000-ton tanker grounded on a public beach with the crew still aboard. Understand what that means. They were within sight of families on the sand, and they still could not step off, because stepping off meant surrendering the wage claim that lived in the hull under their feet. They stayed there for weeks. The case settled at $165,000 against roughly $170,000 owed. Their names are Ne Win, 53, of Myanmar, Ria Sekt Ali, 52, of Pakistan, and Vinay Kumar, Manshan Sheikh, and Nirmal Singh Bora, all of India. Kumar told Reuters they had seen hell on that last voyage. The mechanism is the maritime lien. Your wages are secured against the ship, which sounds like protection until you realize the ship is holding you, not the other way round. The cost at Al Quwain is the distance between you and a beach you can already see. Sign your proxy over to an inspector before you disembark, not after. Last 3. Drop a comment if you have got one. Comments cost nothing, they work in every port on Earth, and unlike the ship's Wi-Fi, they do not die the second you clear the breakwater. Number 4. The Ras Isa Terminal in Yemen, 4.8 nautical miles off the coast, the Safer. Let me be straight about the category. This crew was abandoned by a war and a broke national oil company, not by an owner skipping a payroll, and it belongs here because what they did is why a coastline still exists. Built in 1976 and converted into a floating storage vessel, she held 1,140,000 barrels of crude. All maintenance stopped in 2015 when the war started. No functioning inert gas system, which means the tanks could ignite at any moment. Fire main dead. Cathodic protection dead. Sea chest valves rusted so badly they would not shut. Power for the whole vessel came off one small generator on deck. A skeleton crew from the Yemeni State Oil Company held that together for 8 years. On May 27, 2020, a pipe flooded the engine room, and a 4-hour repair took 5 days of continuous work. The United Nations transferred the oil off in August 2023, and Greenpeace credited that skeleton crew for the fact there was anything left to salvage. The mechanism is the war. The cost of the Safer is 8 years of a man's undivided attention, and a man only gets to spend that once. Know where your inert gas system is and whether it actually runs. Number 3. At anchor in the seaport of Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, the Al Maha. 12 years. Read that again. 12 years. Abdul Nasser Saleh, an engineer from Syria, joined a livestock ship then called the Jeddah Palace I, carrying sheep and cattle across the Red Sea. In 2015, the Saudi owners abandoned him and the crew off Sudan, and he was marooned there 7 years, allowed ashore by day, sleeping aboard at night. In June 2022, she moved to Jeddah, and Saudi immigration rules meant he could not set foot on land at all. For 2 more years, he could not leave the deck. He ran laps at sunrise and sunset, 1,500 meters a day. A stray cat he named Apricot moved aboard and followed him. He signed a settlement for $140,000 in overdue wages, then waited 2 more years and got none of it. Tanzania, the flag state, never responded to a single request. He left in April 2024 with less than he was owed. Mohamed Arachetti, the union coordinator on the case, called it the worst in his 23 years as an inspector. The mechanism is the settlement. A signature is not a payment, and a signature buys the owner years. The cost at Jeddah is a decade, and there is no installment plan for repaying one. A settlement without a date and a bank reference on it is a letter, not an agreement. Number 2, the port of Beirut, the Rosus. The strangest fact in this video is that this crew got off alive, and the abandonment killed roughly 190 people anyway. Captain Boris Prokofiev joined her in Turkey in 1913 after the previous crew mutinied over unpaid wages. She was carrying 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate to Mozambique when her owner, Igor Grekushkin, diverted her to Beirut to pick up extra cargo for cash. They were being greedy, Prokofiev said later. The cargo could not be safely loaded. Lebanon impounded the ship over unpaid port fees, and Grekushkin walked away from the vessel and the men on it. Immigration rules kept the master and 3 crew aboard 11 months, living on top of ammonium nitrate that Lebanese customs officials were describing to the judiciary as a floating bomb. Prokofiev sold the ship's fuel to hire the lawyers who got them released in August 2014, still owed $200,000. The cargo went into a warehouse and sat 6 years. On August 4th, 2020, it went off. The mechanism is the arrest. A state seizes a ship, 4 men are inside the thing it seizes, and once the state owns the problem, it stops looking. The cost of the Rosus was paid 6 years late by tens of thousands of people who had never been to sea. If the cargo is dangerous and the owner stops answering, put it to the port state in writing. The most dangerous ship on this list has a hull number. Here it is, 9215517. The Aman, at anchor off Adabiya, Suez, Egypt. Mohammed Aisha joined her as chief officer in May 2017. 2 months later, Egyptian authorities detained the ship over expired safety equipment certificates. The master happened to be ashore running errands when the order arrived, so it was served on Aisha, and an Egyptian court used that to designate him the vessel's legal guardian. He said afterwards it happened without his understanding at the time and without his consent. The owner abandoned the ship. The rest of the crew went home through 2019, and from October of that year he was alone on her. Master, engineer, cook, deckhand, watchman, all of it, on a ship with no power. In March 2020, heavy weather dragged the Aman off her anchorage and grounded her about 5 miles away. That was the only good thing that happened in 4 years, because it put her close enough to shore that he could swim it. So he swam. Every few days, for food, for drinking water, and to charge his phone, and then he swam back, because the court order said he had to. His passport expired while he was holding it. His mother died in Syria, and he could not go to her. He told Canadian radio that it was not just loneliness, it was mandatory loneliness combined with desperation, and that it will make you suicidal. He was released on April 22nd, 2021, 4 years in, and only because the union found a representative in Egypt willing to take on the guardianship in his place. Years later, he still has not been paid. Now go back to number 10. Captain Vabi Kara was made legal guardian of the Kinan Mite at Adabiya in 2020. The same law, the same port, the same stretch of water, while Aisha was still out there swimming for his drinking water, and while his case was already in the international press. Egypt did not fail to notice the first man. Egypt read about the first man and then applied the identical order to a second one, and the union had to solve the same problem the same way twice, at the same anchorage, inside 2 years. Everything in this countdown stacks onto that one anchorage. A writ that freezes the hull like Newport, a scrap price that decides your worth like Palm Beach, a company that treats it as a system like Elite Way, a flag state that deregisters and vanishes like Palo, a lien that holds you in place like the EBA, a settlement that buys years like Jeddah, a state arrest that forgets the people inside like Beirut. All of it, on one ship with one man's name on the paperwork. So what does the Aman actually cost a seafarer? The answer is this whole list at once, delivered to a single person. And the advice for number 1 is the same boring advice as everything else. Read the detention order. If you cannot read it, do not sign it, and call an inspector from the master's phone before anybody puts a pen in your hand. So that is the 20. From 13 men in a Welsh dock with no working fridge, all the way to a swimmer in the Suez Canal with a court order tied to his ankle. And notice what the list kept whispering. It is never one crooked owner. It is a cheap flag plus a wage you can only collect by staying. It is an anchorage 25 miles out plus a coast guard with a shipping lane to protect. It is a detention order plus a court that needs a warm body. 2 ordinary things, neither of them criminal on its own, and together they build a cell that does not need a lock on it. 6,223 in 1 year, 410 ships, 337 of them under flags of convenience. Back in 2016, the figure was 20 ships. That is not 6,000 men with bad luck and poor judgment. That is a filing cabinet, and the filing cabinet is working exactly the way it was built to work. So here are the rules. Photograph your contract and the registry certificate before you sail. Search the hull number, not the company name. Write every unpaid day in the log with a date on it. And if a crewmate goes quiet, that is the emergency, not the money. Now, it is your turn. Put the name of a ship or a company in the comments, the exact one, with the port, because somebody signing a contract tonight has not learned it yet, and there is nowhere else they are going to hear it. Subscribing is free, which in this industry makes it just about the last free thing left. Until next time, keep one hand for yourself and one for the ship. Keep your sign-off date in writing, and never sign for a vessel you cannot walk off.